The old man stood quietly in line. No complaints, no impatience, just a steady breath and hands folded over a worn leather folder. The bank manager noticed him immediately, not because he was loud, not because he caused trouble, but because he didn't look important enough to belong there. The manager made a decision in seconds, one sentence, one gesture toward the door. That decision would erase careers, shake a bank's reputation, and remind everyone watching that money stays quiet until it moves. Before we continue, take a moment, subscribe, stay with this story until the end, because what unfolds here isn't about money. It's about how easily dignity is dismissed and how costly that mistake can become. The downtown branch opened at 9 a.m. Sharp, glass doors gleaming, floors polished, screens glowing with numbers no one fully understood. This was not a bank for chaos, it was a bank for control. At 9:17 a.m., the old man entered. He moved carefully, but not weakly. 70 years showed in his posture, not his presence. His suit was clean, dark gray, tailored years ago. Not trendy, not flashy, but deliberate. He waited his turn, like everyone else. No phone, no impatience, no entitlement, just quiet. The manager, Evan Whitmore, watched from his glass office. Evan was 39, promoted fast, sharp haircut, sharper opinions. He believed efficiency meant authority, and authority meant control. He noticed the old man because the line slowed. Not much, just enough to irritate him. Evan stepped out of his office. He didn't ask a teller what was wrong. He didn't check the system. He looked at the man's shoes, then the folder, then the hands, old hands, veined, steady. Evan smiled politely, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Sir," he said, voice calm but firm, "this line is for account holders only." The old man looked up, surprised, not offended. "I am an account holder," he said quietly. Evan nodded, still smiling. "This branch handles priority clients. You may want to try the community branch 2 blocks down." The words were smooth, practiced, careful, but the message landed clearly. You don't belong here. The lobby went quiet. A woman near the window looked away. A young man checked his phone too quickly. A teller froze, hands mid-motion. The old man hesitated. Not because he doubted himself, but because he recognized something worse than anger. Finality. He nodded once. "I understand," he said. He didn't raise his voice, didn't explain, didn't argue. He simply stepped out of line. The glass doors opened again, then closed, and the bank returned to its rhythm. The old man's name was Samuel Carter. No one asked. No one cared. Samuel Carter had opened his first account 43 years earlier. Not in this building. Not with these people. Back when banks still knew their customers by memory. He had stayed loyal. Through mergers, through rebrands, through policies that slowly replaced relationships. He believed loyalty still mattered. That belief would die that morning. At 9:42 a.m., Evan returned to his office. He felt accomplished, efficient, professional. Then a teller knocked. Her voice was tight. Sir, I need you to see something." Evan frowned. Annoyed more than curious, she turned the monitor toward him. One account, one name, Samuel Carter. The balance loaded slowly, then fully. Evan's smile vanished. The number didn't register at first. His mind rejected it. He leaned closer, checked again, then again. The room felt smaller. That account didn't just matter, it anchored the branch, the largest private balance they had, the kind banks quietly protect, the kind executives whisper about. Evan stood up too fast. "Where is he?" he asked. The teller swallowed. "He left." Evan felt something shift inside his chest. Not guilt, not yet. Fear. The apology hadn't begun yet. The consequences hadn't landed. But the door had already closed, and Samuel Carter was walking away with a decision forming in silence. Evan didn't sit back down. He paced. Once, twice, then straight for the door. The lobby suddenly felt different. Too quiet, too exposed. "Did anyone stop him?" Evan asked. No one answered. They didn't need to. Samuel Carter had left the building the same way he entered it. Calm, unrushed, unchallenged. Outside, the morning traffic moved as usual. People crossed streets, phones buzzed, coffee cups steamed. Nothing about the world suggested a mistake had just been made. But inside the bank, panic had begun to breathe. Evan pushed through the glass doors and scanned the sidewalk. Too late. Samuel Carter was already halfway down the block. Not hurrying, not looking back. Evan jogged. A bank manager running down the street was not a common sight. A few people stared. "Sir, Mr. Carter," Evan called out. The name felt strange in his mouth now, and he hadn't known it minutes earlier. Now it felt heavy. Samuel stopped. Slowly. He turned. Not angry, not smug, just tired. "Yes," he said. Evan straightened his tie, tried to regain authority that no longer belonged to him. "I owe you an apology," Evan said quickly. "There was a misunderstanding. Please come back inside." Samuel studied him, really looked at him, the suit, the forced calm, the fear hiding behind professionalism. "No," Samuel said. One word, soft, final. Evan blinked. "We value you as a client," he said. "Your business matters to us." Samuel gave a small smile. "You didn't value me 10 minutes ago," he replied. People passed them. No one slowed. No one noticed the shift happening between them. "I was treated like an inconvenience," Samuel continued. "Like a problem to be redirected." "That was not our intention," Evan said too quickly. Samuel nodded. "I believe you," he said, "and that makes it worse." Evan tried one last time. "Please," he said, "let us fix this." Samuel looked past him, at the bank, at the logo etched into glass. "I spent my life believing institutions remember loyalty," Samuel said. "They don't. They remember numbers." He paused. "Today, you reminded me I don't need you." Then he turned away and walked. At 10:11 a.m., Samuel Carter sat in his car. He didn't start the engine. He made a call instead. Not to complain, not to threaten, to instruct. "Yes," he said calmly into the phone, "I'd like to begin a full withdrawal." There was a pause on the other end, then confusion, then alarm. Samuel listened, patient, unmoved. "Yes," he repeated. "You're all of it." Back inside, Evan was no longer in control. Phones rang. Whispers moved faster than paperwork. A regional director was looped in, then legal, then corporate. The branch manager title meant nothing now. Samuel Carter's account wasn't just large, it was symbolic. It signaled trust, and trust, once removed, spreads quietly. By noon, the withdrawal was confirmed. By 2 p.m., the numbers had moved. By 4 p.m., the damage was undeniable. The next morning, Evan sat across from 3 executives on a video call. No one raised their voice. They didn't need to. "You violated protocol," one of them said. "You made an assumption." Evan opened his mouth, closed it again. "We lost more than money," another said. "We lost reputation." There was a pause. Then the decision, effective immediately. Evan wasn't the only one. And the teller who froze, the floor supervisor who stayed silent, another manager who dismissed concerns earlier. 4 names, 4 careers. None of them slept well that night. Samuel Carter didn't celebrate. He didn't gloat. He transferred his funds to a smaller institution, one with fewer screens, fewer assumptions, a place where someone asked his name. The bank learned a lesson it couldn't undo. The manager paid a price he didn't expect. But the story wasn't over yet, because consequences don't end with termination. They echo. Evan cleared out his office in silence. A cardboard box, a framed certificate, a pen he never used. The glass walls felt different now, no longer protective, just transparent. People avoided eye contact, not out of cruelty, out of fear. No one wanted to see themselves in him. Traffic moved slowly. Evan didn't turn on the radio. The silence felt deserved. He replayed the moment again and again. The line, the folder, the way he pointed. He told himself he was enforcing policy, that professionalism required decisiveness. But another voice, quieter, refused to leave. You judged first. The incident didn't go viral, not immediately. But within banking circles, it traveled fast, discreet, damaging. A manager who lost a major account, a failure of judgment, a risk. Interviews ended early. Emails went unanswered. Evan learned that consequences don't shout. They close doors politely. Samuel Carter didn't follow the fallout. He returned home to a modest house he had owned for decades, a place filled with memory, not luxury. He placed the leather folder on his desk. Inside were documents, old investment notes, letters, one photograph. His late wife, Margaret. She had believed in patience, in grace. People reveal themselves when they feel powerful, she used to say. Samuel understood that now. 3 weeks later, Samuel received a letter, an apology, carefully worded, legally filtered, signed by executives who never saw his face. He read it once, then folded it neatly. He did not respond. Months passed. Evan applied for smaller roles, lower responsibility, lower pay. He told the story differently each time, softened it, shortened it. But the truth followed. One interviewer finally asked directly, "Would you do anything differently?" Evan hesitated. That hesitation answered the question for him. At night, Evan dreamed of the bank doors. Sometimes they opened, sometimes they didn't. He woke with the same thought. If I had asked his name. A year later, that Evan received an email, not from a bank, from a non-profit. They worked with seniors, financial education. Access, they needed help, experience, humility. The pay was modest, the work was quiet. Evan accepted. Not out of redemption, out of necessity. An elderly man waited outside the office. Evan held the door. "After you," he said. The man smiled. "Thank you," he replied. Evan felt the weight of the words. The fall had changed Evan, but change does not erase impact, and Samuel Carter had not finished shaping the lesson. Samuel Carter's decision didn't make headlines, but it changed things. Banks talk, quietly, carefully. A major account closing doesn't just hurt balance sheets, it forces review, policy meetings, internal reckoning. At the downtown branch, everything changed. Staff were retrained, new signage appeared, a new language replaced old assumptions. But the damage had already happened. Trust doesn't return just because behavior improves. Samuel never spoke publicly about what happened. Friends urged him to, family too. "People should know," his daughter Elaine said. Samuel shook his head. "They already do," he replied. "They just don't say it out loud." Instead, he moved his wealth deliberately, thoughtfully. He invested in credit unions, community lenders, institutions that ask questions before making conclusions, not because they were perfect, but because they tried. The non-profit office was small, old furniture, second-hand computers, slow printers. Evan learned new skills: listening, waiting, asking before assuming. He worked with seniors who had been dismissed elsewhere, redirected, ignored. They came in carrying folders, stories, and pride they refused to let go of. Evan never rushed them, not once. 2 years after the bank incident, Evan was invited to a fundraising dinner. He didn't want to go, but attendance was expected. The room was warm, understated, quietly affluent. Evan scanned the crowd and froze. Across the room stood Samuel Carter, older, still composed, still unmistakable. Evan felt his chest tighten. This was it, the moment that had waited patiently. He didn't approach immediately. He watched. Samuel laughed softly with the group. No bitterness, no performance, just presence. Eventually, Evan stepped forward. "Mr. Carter," he said quietly. Samuel turned. Recognition flickered, then settled. "Yes," Samuel said. "I don't expect forgiveness," Evan continued. "I just wanted to say, I learned." Samuel studied him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Samuel nodded. "Good," he said. "That's all this ever needed to be. Nothing more, nothing less." Evan walked away changed again. Not lighter, but clearer. Some lessons don't come with absolution. They come with responsibility. At 74, Samuel updated his estate plans. Not out of fear, out of intention. He established a fund, small at first, then growing. It supported financial dignity for seniors, advocacy, education. No buildings named after him, no plaques, just impact. The story had moved beyond punishment, beyond regret. It had become something quieter. A reminder passed forward. Samuel Carter passed away quietly one winter morning. No cameras, no announcements, no urgency. Just a phone call to family. Then another. Then silence. He was 76. Samuel's funeral was small. Family, a few old friends, and people who knew him before numbers ever followed his name. There were no speeches about wealth, no mention of banks. Instead, they spoke about patience, about listening, about how he never raised his voice to be heard. Elaine stood at the podium briefly. "My father believed respect was a habit," she said, "not a reward." Then she stepped down. Weeks later, envelopes began arriving. Not to banks, not to executives, to people, former co-workers, community organizers, a non-profit office. Inside each was a letter, typed, careful, personal. Samuel had written them slowly, over years. In one, he wrote, "If you ever find yourself deciding who belongs, pause. Ask a question instead." Evan opened his letter alone. He recognized the handwriting immediately. His hands shook. The letter was short. "I didn't need an apology, and I needed you to become someone else. I see that you did. That matters." Evan folded the paper carefully. He didn't cry. He sat quietly. The Carter Dignity Fund was announced months later. It wasn't large by financial standards, but it was intentional. It supported seniors navigating financial systems, advocacy during disputes, education against quiet discrimination. The fund didn't advertise, it worked. The downtown branch still stood. New signage, new staff, new leadership. But some things couldn't be rewritten. Among employees, the story remained, not as gossip, as caution, a reminder whispered during training. Ask first, assume less. Evan never returned to banking. He didn't want to. He stayed where listening mattered more than speed, where dignity wasn't measured. He carried the story with him, not as punishment, as instruction. And Samuel Carter's largest contribution was never an account. It was a moment, one decision, not to argue, not to shout, not to demand respect, but to withdraw quietly and let the absence speak. Power reveals itself in seconds. Character reveals itself over time. And respect, once denied, always remembers.